So this is the Jamaica Baptist Union Memorial to Secretary of State 1866. This is one of our many sources on churches or church groups in the island of Jamaica. And we encourage you to donate to us to help to build the national collection.
The first question I always ask is, where were you born and raised, and how do you think that shaped you as a person today?
So I was born in the parish of St. Catherine, but I have lived in the parish of Clarendon for basically all my life with my mom, my aunt, my dad. For the most part, I've lived with my mom most of my life. How that has shaped me, I believe growing up in Clarendon has really opened my eyes to how good in a sense that I had it growing up, in the sense that when I moved to Kingston and I started university, it was just a very different environment. It was a lot more open and noisy and all of that. And growing up in the parish of Clarendon, which is considered a rural parish, I got an opportunity to appreciate things more because you don't have all this noise, so you're able to kind of center your thoughts and center your thinking, and just the whole community, the village raising the child. I had that growing up because I had my mom's friends. She used to leave me, and I wasn't necessarily like a crybaby of sorts. So she used to leave me with her friends and the neighbors and my aunts. So, growing up, everybody knew everybody. Everybody had a certain level of respect and love, and togetherness that I didn't necessarily. I mean, I experienced it in Kingston because I was staying with family at one most of the time, but it was just different. Everybody being in close proximity to each other. You go next door, you call your neighbor, they call and they give you dinner, or they call and they give you food. That sense of community and that sense of love and respect and togetherness is something that I really got from that has really shaped me into who I am today.
Okay, so bridging on that, a question has come to my mind. Do you feel there was that same sense of community in the capital?
Yes, but maybe in a lesser extent, because I feel like people usually living in Kingston, the spaces are much smaller, especially, compared to Clarendon. You have big yard space, or as they call it, like a big yard where you have like families living in the same yard. But in Kingston, not so much. And yes, the sense of community is there to an extent, but because for me, it's just different. It's just different. I don't remember, like, people they share things with you and so on, but in the country, it's just a different environment. Like, there's less noise. That's one big difference. Like in Kingston, where I was in East Kingston at the time, music was always playing.
Very capital.
very, very capital. There's a lot of vehicles, and it's a lot of, sometimes you just want a little bit of peace and quiet. Like in the country, you go outside and you'll hear like a cock crowing, or you'll hear like in the night you'll see those little
the
crickets,
yeah.
Or the light bulbs, what they called
What, firefly?
No, it's not. It's firefly. They call it peeny wally.
Okay.
That's the Jamaican name for it. Peeny wally with the bulb, and it's just different. It's just this. I feel a sense of peace and tranquility when I'm in nature. I guess that's like a personality thing as well. I find that when I go to places like, for example, Portland and Manchester, I just feel very happy, especially when I'm out, like off the beaten stretch where sometimes your phone can't even pick up, but there's just this feeling of like the air feels different, the people, they seem more warm, they're more humble, for me, my skin looks better. I mean, like, it's just very clean air, there's this community-ness and this community love that's there that it's in Kingston. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Kingston people aren't loving. Hello. But it's just a different feeling for me.
Okay, so just thinking about you obviously you have your younger years where you're in primary school, elementary school, then you go to secondary school.
Yes.
How does someone end up working for the Jamaican National Library? Is it a thing from your youth that encouraged you to do that, or is it just chance to opportunity?
Well, and me going into librarianship is a very actual, it's completely librarianship definitely chose me. Growing up, I never wanted to be a librarian. I always wanted to be a lawyer. My parents will tell you I was quite talkative. So people used to say, "Oh, you should become a lawyer and everything." And going to high school, I went to Clarendon College, the best high school ever. I just want to plug that in there. I did subjects. I joined a debating club, so I did everything that I felt that would have helped me in my future profession of a lawyer, because that's what I wanted to do. That's what my mind was set on. However, because of, in my last year, I didn't quite pass some of the subjects that would have allowed me to get accepted into the law program. So at that time, when you were applying to university, well, that specific university, UWI, you got like two main options. So my second option was something in the humanities. So I'd actually selected... I think it's something to do with linguistics at Language, Community and Society. And, because I didn't get through for law, you said, well, you can take this other option. So I was actually going to study that. However, because I didn't have the financial means to fund my education, I was going to take student loan. And so I wanted to ensure that whatever it is that I was going to study would get me a job, because living in Jamaica, the reality is thousands of people graduate each year and there are no jobs. Some of us will become entrepreneurs, but I think entrepreneurship is a journey, and it's something that I may do in the future. But at that point in time, you're just thinking, oh, I finish primary school, I do high school, it's like check. So the next step is to go to university, and when you graduate, you want to get a job. So I started to, ask around, and I remember having a conversation with my cousin, and she said to me, why not do a professional degree? Now, me with my thinking, I wasn't even thinking about professional degree. I was like, oh, that's law and whatever, and language and communication, it's a degree. But she's like, well, yeah, it's a degree, and I'm not bashing the program. It's a good program. A lot of persons have graduated and done well. But for me, I started to think of it different. So she suggested that I could do librarianship. And at first I was like, librarianship, what is that? Because I really didn't know much apart from what I saw at school, like with the librarians there and so on. But anyhow, long story short, I decided, okay, I was going to switch. So I switched and did the library program. And yeah, I have absolutely no regrets. That decision has really allowed for me to learn so much and have some of the experiences that I'm having even now. I'm at the British Library, so I guess, I have, I made the right choice. So I have no regrets about, coming into this field and yeah.
Okay. So what do you love most about your job?
I love meeting different people. And being a librarian, that affords me that opportunity almost every day. You get to interact with people face to face, maybe over the phone, through email. I really love that aspect of the job. I get a great sense of fulfillment when I'm able to help somebody to find some information that they may need, whether for their research, just for, personal growth. Working at the NLJ, I've had experiences where I've met persons who they come and they're looking for a lost family member, or there was one particular instance where there was this gentleman who he's like a twin. He and his brother, both their parents died when they were very, very small. And he, most times when these things happen, it comes out in the paper. So he came to the library, wanted to find the newspaper article that had the story about his mom and his dad, and they died really, really tragically. And he was telling us about his story and what happened to him, and it really, really touched me. And we weren't fully able to give him all the information that he needed, but at least we were able to say, well, maybe you could go here and this person could help you. So, instances like that, sometimes you think, oh, you're doing your job, and a lot of people, the perception is, oh, you're a librarian, you just sit in a library and you man the books. But that is that is not, we do that, but that's not the only thing that we do. And so I always use the opportunity, even as a librarian, to just kind of tell people about what it is that I do, because I find that a lot of people don't really understand, because they're just more exposed to the public and the school library, which and then again, a lot of the times too, what I learned is that a lot of persons that you even interact with like on the forefront, they're actually not librarians. They might just be like paraprofessionals. Librarians really do like the behind the scenes things. So there's a lot of things, or a lot of different things that you do as a librarian that a lot of people don't know about. So that's a part of my mission as well, just to inform people and let them know like what we do and so on. But yeah, I definitely love meeting people, and just you learn so much working at the NLG. I've learned so much about Jamaica, about the Caribbean, that I probably would not have known if I were not working in that institution. But a big thing with librarianship too is that we promote lifelong learning. So you learn every day. So that's another thing that I really do enjoy, and that the profession really pushes.
Okay, so it's important to talk about the fact I felt you was talking about is that some people just imagine libraries to be a place of just books.
Yes.
Okay, so when I think of this, I think of the way I've kind of used libraries and national archives in the past. Barbados, I've been to Barbados, St. Lucia, the Martinican one, even though I couldn't read most of it because it was in French, but I still managed to get something out of it. And I think it's important. How could it benefit people that are visiting Jamaica or actually resident in Jamaica? In what other ways do you think people need to be aware of? What things can they go and do there?
So there's a lot of things that you can do at the National Library. You can do some amount of genealogy research. So, for example, if you want to trace your heritage back to a specific district, or if your great-great-grandfather maybe owned a piece of land in this specific place, because the resources that we have, for example, we have over 100 newspaper titles, we have over 20,000 maps. So and persons have come and they've used like these resources to help them to trace back their family ties, to maybe find an article in the paper that spoke about their grandfather, their sister, or someone. So that's one thing that you can definitely come to the NLJ and do. As well as just to learn more about your history, to learn about maybe your community. We do have community files that tell us about like how some communities got their names, what's the significance of this. So if definitely like you're a tourist. As a matter of fact, most of the users, especially in the section that I work, they're not even Jamaicans. They're like people from Australia, Germany, just all over the world. And even some of them will come physically, but most of them, they'll email us like their queries and their questions. So they want to know more about our culture. They want to know about our music. They want to know about the places, and some people they're trying to trace back and trying to make linkages and all of these things. So there's that aspect, the research aspect, of course. People doing their PhDs or masters students, for academic reasons. But also we do have different events that the library will put on in collaboration with our partners, whether internal or external, from time to time. And all our events are open to the public. National Library is completely free. It's anybody can come there and use our resources in different ways that they deem fit.
Yeah, you've just made me think about one gentleman I know called Ramel Hall. He's from Barbados. He's a filmmaker, and he touched on about how he said he's concerned about it, but when he would go to the archives, the National Library and whatnot, he realised that big corporations like BBC and other corporations are using it more than the local people.
Definitely.
Does that kind of make you think about what society can do to motivate more people to go and visit? Because it's great that people from overseas are looking at it.
Yes.
But I think people should want to learn about themselves first.
That is so true, and I completely agree with that. And I've always been a very big advocate for that, in terms of I believe what is known must be shared. So people need to know about their history and their culture, because when you have a better understanding of like where you're coming from, it really does empower you and helps you, and it can sometimes makes it a bit clearer, like how you need to get where you need to be or how you need to get to the next step. So definitely that is something that my library, we're constantly looking at ways how to engage the rest of the population, because the truth of the fact is people still mix up the National Library with the Tom Redcombe Library. Okay. And like we're two different entities, two different ministries, two different mandates. Like for example, at the National Library, people cannot borrow books because the National Library, by the National Library Act, which was, I think it was in the 2000s, it established us as the legal deposit library for the country. So what that means is that all items published by a Jamaican about Jamaicans, 2 copies of it, if it's a book, should be deposited at the library for infinity. As well as maps, photographs, any resource or most resources that, talk about Jamaica or was produced by a Jamaican, then we, by law, we're supposed to get a copy of that. So that is definitely something, and, through legal deposit, that's a way that we try to reach the population, to inform people. We have planned sessions sometimes where we tell people like how they can self-publish, for example. So even if you don't it's not published by an established publisher, if you self-publish a book, you can donate it to us. But one of the target groups that we're trying to reach are the young people, because I feel like that is a key area. Exactly. I mean, we're on our way out, so those coming in. So I will say that we do have challenges that really don't allow us to get us have that reach that we would like to have, but it is a work in progress, and we really we have I know our reference department does a outreach where we visit schools and we talk to especially persons doing like at CSEC A levels, like tips on how they can formulate their questions and so forth. So that's one way. And we also invite schools to come and use our resources. We do research tours. So if you're watching now, you're in high school, we usually take students from 14 years up. So you can speak to your teacher, contact us. At the end, I'll give you the details. And you can just come in. We're open Monday to Friday, every day, 9 to 5, 9 to 4 on a Friday. And anybody can come in and use our resources. It's perfectly free. The only thing that you can't leave the library with anything. You have to use it there because of the nature of it. But yeah, in terms of outreach, we are trying. We are on social media. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. But again, I think too, and I don't mean, I love Jamaica. I love my Jamaican people. But one of the, I would say, things with us as Jamaicans like to talk. I feel like we talk more than how we read. So that in itself, it's true. You see, you're laughing. It's true. We do. We're very, that's why the phone companies, they make a lot of money. And that's why people will say libraries are no longer relevant. And I'm not saying this to bash us in any way, but it's just a reality. So, if you say to somebody, let me take you to a session, they're probably more inclined to go than to go to the library. So it's also, perception is also a big barrier in terms of like reaching the populace, because people just aren't that enthused to come to the library. And, we try our best, and we are trying to, change that and get more people, like more traffic in. But, and also the digital age is also, people get information from their computers. But the thing about libraries is that we give you, there's a lot of information, but libraries and librarians help you to get the right information. So, yeah.
It's funny you said the digital age, so yes. I'm just going to talk about that quickly. Last time I was in the Caribbean, I deliberately made sure I got all my parents' birth certificates. And that's including grandparents as well. Main reason I did that is because I'm always reminded of what happened in Montserrat.
With the earthquake, with the volcanic
and
eruption,
also Hurricane Irma. Yeah. So I was thinking that if anything gets cleaned out, God forbid. I hope at least I've got it in some shape or form. So I wanted to talk about how important in this current climate is the importance of digitalization in the Caribbean. How important is that right now?
Well, digitization it's the way of the future. I think whether or not a lot of institutions want to accept it or not, it is what it's going to happen. It's happening, and I feel like the sooner we get on board, the better it can be, because information is being created every single day, and institutions like where I work, in libraries, we need to be capturing this information for the future. History is happening as we speak, so we need to be capturing these things, and digitization is definitely a key way or a key tool that we can use to capture important information, not just about general things, but even about ourselves and our families and our histories and our legacies. I mean, for example, you can use your phone and you can do a video. Maybe, you have a family member who they have a lot of information, and you might not have the time to be sitting down and writing, but you can video them and they can talk and they can tell their stories. For example, what I'm doing, this is also us creating content or preserving information that can be used at a future time for different purposes. So it's very important, and like places like here at the British Library, they have ongoing digitization projects. I mean, we would love to, like have it going at rapid speed, but also digitization in and of itself, both here at the BL and at the National Library, it's expensive. It's an expensive venture to get the equipment, to get the right staff in, to get the processes going. But I do feel that both institutions are definitely on board in terms of capturing things through digitization, because we understand the importance of it, and it's the world that we're living in. We're living in a digital age, so yeah.
Okay, I was just thinking about, there's a particular question, this particular archive, I think it's called the Marson Archive.
Yes, the Marson.
So what exactly is that? Because she's someone that always sticks out to mind for me, because obviously she lived in London for a long time. She's from Jamaica. She also went to the same school as a friend of mine, so she goes on about that. So what exactly is that collection?
Okay, so the Marson Archive is what we would consider so you have different types of archives. You have literary archives and you have personal archives. So the archive that we have at the National Library for Marson, it's more, I would probably put it in the category of more of a, I don't want to say literary, but more personal. So we have some manuscripts of some of her poems that she wrote, London Calling. We actually collaborated with some publishers a few years back to publish a book. And I think that's the name for it as well, London Calling. So she was basically a broadcaster she's Jamaican. She's from the parish of St. Elizabeth. I think she went to Hampton High School. And then she, at some point in her career, she moved to England, and she used to work with the BBC. I think she was a radio announcer, and she also did, a lot of writings and so forth. She did poems. And so, we have some of her manuscripts at the National Library. Some of it has been digitized, but a lot of it has not. So if it's basically if somebody comes in and they request and they want information from the archive, then we will facilitate that as best as possible. But yeah, she's one of those Jamaican women who really paved the way, who really made an impact, especially during that time when she was in England, when there were a lot of racial differences and a lot of socio-political things that were just happening. For her to have come from the Caribbean and be working at the BBC at the time and just making that impact that now we're talking about her, speaks volumes to her work and to her as a woman and as a Jamaican, and just the impact that she had.
Okay, so just to wrap up on the section regarding the library, I wanted to ask two questions. One, if you have something that's water damaged, say it's water damaged, and they say they want to give it to the library because there's no point keeping it at home because it's going to die. Is there a way of recovering that at the library? Can they take it and use it?
Well, it depends. Usually, before things come into the library, most national libraries will have what we call a preservation and conservation department, and that department will assess everything. So yes, it's water damage, but sometimes when things are water damage, it might have mold on it, for example, and that's something that you're not going to just take and put into the collection, because then that's something that's going to spread and cause more problems. So each collection is vetted, it's assessed, and some things can be saved and some things cannot. So depending on the extent of the damage, the conservator will do their assessment and say, well, this is something that maybe we can dry and press and use their different materials to fix it, but then some things we can't fix, and then if we can't fix, then we'll just tell you.
All right, and the last question is, obviously lots of local people island-wide, you want them to obviously contribute to the library. Let's say some person, I don't know, he's from or she's from Tottenham, I don't know, and her parents or grandparents are Jamaican, and they find a box of photos, or they find a box of, maybe their dad was a part of a sound system, and it's got lots of kind of archival stuff. Now, if that person goes to the library with that material, would that be considered British history and they wouldn't take it on, or would it be considered Jamaican history and would they take it on? I don't know.
Well, it can be a little bit of both, because I mean, if maybe your parents came from Jamaica and you were born here in England, so it's just really up to the individual and the family to make that decision, and we would, in a contractual or a library terminology, we would call that the estate. So some people, if, like, for example, your family member, they died and they said, well, everything, we're leaving it to you, and you have all of these great photographs that we would love to have in our library. Yes, we would like to take it, but there is a process. We don't just take things like that, because then there would have to be like documentation to say, well, you have the copyright or you have the rights to this information, because I mean, I'm hoping this doesn't happen, but people can come and they can take things, and the library, given the nature of copyright and licensing and right, and we know all of these things going around, we don't just want to take your things like that. We have to go through a process, and we say, okay, we're taking it, and if we take it, that means it has to be accessible, because some people, unfortunately, they see the library as a big storage, and I've
just leave it at the door,
that's it. I just keep it there, and I've had this experience where I've seen persons that they want to donate to the library, but then they don't want anybody to use it.
Okay.
And we're not into that, because again, what is known must be shared. So if we're taking your archive, there are certain conditions that no matter what it is, once you're giving it to the library, or you deposit it to the library, then we would explain to you that, okay, we're going to take it, we'll do the necessary conservation work, but that means that, and at some point in time it may be digitized and it will be up on our website, and people might come and they might request it for study and research. And that's what we do, both the British Library and the National Library. Once you want something to use, it's open to study and research. Anybody can come, you can access it, you have access to it. But when you decide now that you may want to use it in a publication, or you want to use it for something else, then that's a different thing. And then we'd have to get like permission from the estate to say, okay, this person can use this in a book or in a show, because then we don't want people suing us and saying, you're using my parents' image in this show or this movie, and you're gaining like monetary rights, and again, copyright is a whole different thing. So we're very we're open to, and I'm not discouraging, if you have photos or books or anything you want to donate to the library, you can contact us, and then we'll start the process. But again, there is a process, and we're not just gonna take your thing just like that, because we have to get all of those back end things cleared before we decide to keep it.
Okay. This is the last section.
Yes.
So this section is just basically about how did you get on the scholarship and your time in Britain so far?
Okay. Well, all right. So I am currently on a Chevening British Library Fellowship, and I came to be on this fellowship because Chevening as an entity, it's basically the UK Foreign and Commonwealth Office. They offer different awards every year to different scholars from all over the world. This year in particular, there are 1,750 of us here in the UK. Most persons are pursuing a master's at a UK university. However, they also offer fellowships, which is what I'm on. And the fellowships, they vary from 3 months, 9 months, a year, different time spans. I got on this one because, again, I applied. for both a fellowship and a scholarship. However, I got through for the fellowship. I went to the UK Embassy in Jamaica where I did an interview, and I also did another interview with persons here from the BL, and based on the results of that, I was successful. And so, yeah, that's why I'm here in London, cold London. So you ask about my experience in the UK so far. I must say it has been very interesting, mostly good. I do not like the weather. You guys can keep that. I don't want that no time at all. It's been mostly cold, but I've adapted, or I'm adapting slowly. I definitely dress warmer. But in terms of the people, I've had mostly good experiences. People have been very welcoming. I'm very bad with directions, so I've been lost a few times, and persons have, always, oh, are you lost? Do you need help? And, they'll help me and so forth. And I'm also staying at a very diverse residence where there are, different people from all over the world. So I'm meeting a lot of different people, experiencing a lot of different foods and cultures. I visited 2 landmarks. I've gone to Buckingham Palace, which I think everybody keeps asking me, have you been there? I was like, okay, I need to go. And I've been to the British Museum as well. And, going to those places, you get a feel of the culture and, a part of the old experience. So far it's been really good, really interesting. I'm just taking it one day at a time and making the most of it.
What thing would you say, whether it's helping yourself, others, or both, that you think you've learned here that you could take home and think, that's really been beneficial to me?
I would say helping both. In order to help someone, you must be able to help yourself as well. And I'm definitely I've learned that from Jamaica, and I would say it's been reinforced here. Where you're in a community. I mean, working here, living at the residence where I am. Again, coming from Clarendon and learning that sense of community from when I was much smaller, it's definitely prepared me for now. So helping somebody or helping people is always that's one of my passions in life. I believe that the pie is big, and if you get a slice, it's not going to stop me from getting my slice. So doing things like trying to not help people or trying not to look out for your brother or your sister or your neighbor, for me that has never been a thing, because I know that in helping you, I'm helping me and I'm helping the community, because that's how I was raised. So I really don't think any other way, and I don't do things with the thinking that, I need you to do back something for me. I'm not necessarily looking for something. I just believe that you should just help. Once you can help, you help.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think there's something technically though that you've learned? Maybe something, that's how they do something here, so I'll take that with me. Is there anything on that aspect?
Yes, a lot. Mostly work. I've definitely been learning about project management. I've always heard about it, but I've never actually been formally trained in that area, and I have had a training session in terms of that, and that has really been helping me in terms of my work and managing my time and just making things a bit clearer, because a lot of time you have an idea, whether in work or your personal life, and it's in your head, but sometimes when you write it down or you put it down on paper, it makes it a lot clearer. So doing project management, I definitely think that's definitely a technical skill that I'm going to take back with me. That will definitely help me, not just professionally, but personally, just to kind of have a clearer understanding of what I need to do and how I'm going to get it done, and, outcomes and all of that.
Okay. And I wanted to ask, what's been like your support network? So you've got your other scholars. So
yes.
Obviously it's international, but I'm sure your Jamaican scholars have helped you through quite a bit.
Definitely. So in terms of my support system, I do have a few relatives here in the UK.
Oh, lovely.
Thank God. And I had a great Christmas with them. Got some Jamaican food, rice and peas, which was a good relief, because Britain is nice, but the food is not my favorite thing. I must say. yeah, so yeah, I really I'm thankful for my cousin. I mean, they don't text me every day, but they do check in on me from time to time. And, Chantelle, are you okay? Are you all right? And I am very grateful for that. And I feel like coming here and experiencing that again has just further reinforced what, your why. And my why is definitely my family. They really do push and support me. I mean, in most things that I do. And if I'm wrong, they're not afraid to say I'm wrong. So yeah, the scholars, the Chevening scholars, they're my other family. We really are a family. I know it sounds cliche, but we have our WhatsApp group and we talk a lot and we do activities together. The other day we went to Russia together. So, we really have a good bond, and I'm grateful for them. And I've also made friends where I'm staying. I've also have my work colleagues who, they help out a lot. So yeah, I really am grateful for the community that I have.
I've got 3 little quick questions. So the one thing goes back to, you said you live in, I know you might not like this term, but you said rural. I think automatically country. So,
yeah, no.
I know you don't like that term. No. But right, so you've gone in the city, but this is a different city. How have you coped with the kind of... the people have helped you in the streets, but it's it can be cold. And I'm not necessarily talking the weather.
I know.
I'm talking like it's not as cohesive as it probably is. How have you coped with that?
So as I said before, for the most part, most people have been helpful, but then some people are just,
in their own
I would
world.
say, and just, I want to say polite. Which is a good thing, but it's not necessarily... I think in Jamaica, that's a bit different because for the most part, people are more... I think people are a bit more friendly. I don't know if it's the weather.
I think it's a London thing. I don't think it's an England thing, because if you go out of London,
definitely, because going to Scotland, people were overly nice. Which I'm not saying, people in London are not nice, but most people are just kind of fast-paced, kind of minding their own business and getting on with their own lives. And I feel like I've never necessarily had this experience before where people are a bit more, but I've coped in that I try to focus on what I do have, on the support system that I do have, and on the ways that people are able to help me. And I think technology too has really, really, really helped. Having WhatsApp, lifesaver, you're able to video chat and see people and talk. So that helps, because sometimes in a city like London, especially at this time in winter time, when it gets darker a little bit sooner, it gets colder, and you kind of just want to stay in, so you might not see as much people. Much people are not outside. Outside is dark. It can get to you. But I also have a very strong spiritual foundation, and that also keeps me and comforts me, my faith and my belief in God. My family, my friends, technology, that definitely helps me with that aspect in terms of being in the city, and you're surrounded by millions of people, but sometimes you can feel alone. The weather changes, it affects your mood, but yeah, those definitely help with that.
In 2 years' time, it's your 60th independence, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So in terms of, it could be in relation to the library, it could be in relation to the whole country, it could be in relation... What would you like to see come the 60th independence? Now, it might not be initiated and happen there, but what would you like to see start changing in terms of... It could be in relation to the library, it could be in relation to the whole country.
Well, in terms of... I'm gonna answer for each of them. In terms of libraries, I definitely want to see the library become more digital, because that is where we are, and that's how we will survive. Libraries, I believe, will never die, because the purpose of a library is to preserve and conserve for the future, and the history is important. So I hope to see that libraries or information is online. Which I know may not happen, but I'm hoping that will happen. For my country, Jamaica, I think the thing that I would want most in our 60th year of independence is for us to be more united. That sense of community that I spoke about, that's something that I want to see come back. I feel like it's dying a bit, where people are becoming more individualistic, more up in their phones. I mean, you know, sometimes we have family get together or friends get together and people aren't really talking, everybody's just on their phone.
Yeah.
You know, I understand it because I'm a millennial, so sometimes I'm on my phone as well, for various reasons. But yeah, I want us to talk to each other more, and that sense of community and unity to come back. I would really love to see the crime, oh my gosh, to really go down. I think that's one of the things that's really smearing Jamaica. Jamaica's a beautiful place. We have beautiful people, and we are a great set of people in every and most things that we do. And I just feel like the crime is just really it's smearing us. And I'm hoping in our 60th year of independence we'll look at it to see how far we've come from, and just know that, you know, we could be so much further, and we can get further if we just deal with the crime.
Let's end on a positive note.
Yes.
Let's say there's something in the archives in 100 years about you. What would you want your legacy to be? Just in general, it could be life, it could be the people around you, it could just be, it could be career based. What do you want your legacy to be? What would you like to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered for having lived for not just myself, but living for others. Especially in a time where we can become so caught up in the self, the selfie, you know, the self-preservation, which is important, and I'm, you know, but at the same time, again, community. I mean, when you, I would want to have want it to be said of me that I lived my life in such a way that I was able to help somebody else to have a better life or have a better experience. I don't want to be remembered as somebody who, you know, is selfish and, you know, is just off for themselves. Yeah, so that's what I would want my archive to be about, you know, the things that I do, the things that I engage in, the people that I'm surrounded with, my experiences would have not just been about me. Yes, they're about me, but also along the way I would have helped and I would have made a difference, and somebody would have, you know, you're able to study my life and look at my life and say, wow, you know, I want to be like that. I want to be able to impact and help and make a difference in the lives of, you know, regular people, and just know that I'm not coming from a rich family or anything, you know, a whole heap of money or anything like that. You know, I was a simple country girl from Clarendon, from Freetown, who, you know, tried, you know, made a step, and I was able through that to, you know, help others.